Today I want to talk about a seemingly boring but very crucial task of actually performing evaluations on your workflows and specifically your AI systems, because they give you this ability through n8n to test out a set of input data that you provide, such as this one that I'm using from language learning journal, Lanai, which is a copilot that helps the user get some writing instructions in based on certain tasks. But are those tasks accurate, right? Does it take the user's input and convert it to useful information consistently? And that's what we'll seek to answer today through n8n's inherently very useful n8n workflows. Let's go. So before we go into the n8n evaluation specifics, let's talk about why we need to have them in the first place. And it's for the very simple reason that AI systems are not quite right. And what that means is that if you look at big players that were taking the charge with leading AI systems at production, they found out that they had to retract those statements. Like Klarna, they thought they could replace their workers with AI systems because their customer service systems just did not meet quality expectations. And then you have Duolingo, a famous content creator platform for the purpose of language learning. They hope to replace their content creators with AI. That didn't work either. And then number 3, look at MIT. They did a study that showed that 19 out of 20 companies had pilots done with AI systems and they could not go to the next phase of going to production. So are you going to put your brand at risk or are you going to take it easy? And that's what evaluations can help with. The reason we're talking about this is because we know LLMs are powerful, but we also know they're unpredictable, right? So the reason they're unpredictable is because of their non-deterministic output nature. That's a fancy way of saying that they're not reliable in giving you the same quality answer every time. And the result of that is that you have inconsistent quality, right? If you have a good answer on one hand, but then in the next time you run the same input or a similar input, you get a different answer, then and one that's worse, then that's bad. And that has real world consequences of you not being able to generate a high quality automated chatbot that can be used for handling customer service tickets, or an automation workflow that is relying upon input for deciding which tool to use, when to send an email, when to scrape and such, right? And what you need to do is you need to handle this like a data scientist. You need to think, well, what are the variables at play that I need to test such that I can have hopefully a production grade system? And the way to do this is to think of it, okay, well, at the very least, I'm expecting certain output qualities, right, from your LLM. It could be, most likely it's going to be a text that says, I have this content or I have this set of tools that I'm going to use, and you want to create test cases for that, right? And you're going to include also some edge cases so that you're sure about this. There's an art to this as well. Then you want to control the randomness. And actually, this is not that hard. It just requires a systematic way of saying, these are my models, these are my temperature settings, and this is my prompt, and you tweak one of them at a time. Then you're going to score systematically. This is where n8n really helps as well, because it gives you systems that can allow you to score on a similarity basis. What is your input? What is your expected answer? What is your actual answer? And finally, you're going to analyze some patterns, which is what a data scientist does. And then you're going to take the next step, which is evaluating at scale, right? And to do that, you have to do a lot of upfront testing. If you could monitor the output of LLM systems, then you should do that as well. But you should be aware that privacy is something you do need to take into consideration, so don't take that lightly. And then you have to have, as we said earlier, custom scoring rules and ways to handle those responses, because if your system fails, it doesn't mean your whole workflow and production should fail. You should have retries in place that say, if I don't meet certain quality standards, I can retry sending an answer, or rather invoking the LLM again and seeing if it meets the quality criteria I set in my overall workflow. Just to be clear here, there's many use cases for LLMs, and specifically for evaluations of LLMs, right? You want to see the quality of a chatbot. You want to see the quality of, let's say, certain marketing content you're creating. You want to see the quality of, let's say, data extraction that can happen through like SQL calls and such. And really, the goal here is to build trustworthy AI, right, through evaluations. And you just have to start with simple workflows, step by step.
Our evaluation system comprises of 3 basic inputs. Number 1, over here, the data that you're going to fetch and feed into this evaluation system. This is going to be representative of typical use cases that you have. Number 2, the application system prompt that we see in our actual production system. This is something that you should copy tit for tat, and eventually you're going to tweak to perfect as needed. Number 3, the LLM model itself. Again, you start with what you're using in production, and you're going to test different models to see which ones perform the best. That's the purpose, or one of the purposes of an evaluation. Now, the other components here in this evaluation are serving us such that we can modify our inputs. For example, over here, this is a edit node where we're editing the input, and all we're doing is we're taking the sheet columns from the prior fetched dataset row node, and we're just giving it a new name such that it's easier for us to refer to in the AI agent prompt that I have set up here. And then we're going to be doing an evaluation, and this is going to be quite constant. You don't change it. It's just asking us in this case to perform a correctness-based evaluation, and we're going to be doing the following: just assessing whether there's a similarity between what we call the ground truth, which is an established correct answer that we're expecting from our AI system, versus what it actually gives us, the expected answer, that is. And because this is going to be done through artificial intelligence itself, we're going to be using the large language model as a judge. And lastly, here's an optional step for saving the input, because the evaluations of n8n provide you actually the ability of reviewing past results. You don't need to, right? As you can see over here, I have some results. As you can see, my inputs, the expected answer, and then the actual agentic answer. So there's no big deal. It's just a matter of preference. And lastly, this is a step I use in order for me to set some input variables in that last sheet that I showed you of the evaluations. I had to set the native language, learning language, and expected answer such that I can see the results tabulated neatly.
So let's go ahead and run this. We're going to go to evaluations, and I'm just going to go ahead and click on run test. And it's going to start running my test based on the G sheet that I've connected it to, which is this one over here, evaluations, and specifically the tab Lanai for my product. And you set this very conveniently all through right here, the fetch dataset node. As you can see, I've authenticated. If you need some help authenticating to Google, I have a video for you at the bottom. And there's also the sheet and the tab that I'm connected to. And you can see over here, the answers are being generated one by one quite quickly. And you can see on the far right, we have the similarity, with 5 being the best, 1 being the lowest. And most of the answers are actually similar, right? They're averaging around 3 or so. So let's go back to the evaluation. We're going to be getting a report very soon, and we did get it. And as you can see over here, I have all the inputs, the expected answer, the similarity scores, and the agentic answer, and how much this cost me in terms of tokens, and also the speed that it took, right? So quite quick, and overall very simple to execute.